Shola Shobowale, a consultant clinical microbiologist from Babcock University. Thanks for coming, Dr. Shobowale.
Thanks for having me.
We've been hearing phrases like national emergency, international health risk, public health emergency.
Yes.
You know, the world is now concerned about this virus. What are some things that we should be doing to step up our response in Nigeria?
Yeah, we need to be quite concerned because this is a disease that can cross borders. And when you have international trade, you have people moving around, a lot of goods moving up and down. The threat is very, very high. Some countries have closed their borders, but 2 or 3 key elements in controlling these things are border control. At the borders, you could train immigration officials, you could plant health officials to be able to, it's not a perfect process, but to weed out a few people that might be showing some of the early signs and symptoms of Ebola virus disease. These are some of the things that can be done. Closing the border is also a last resort where you can just not afford to have any new cases coming in. People who are incubating who are not showing the classical signs and symptoms. There are also other public health things that can be done. Things like quarantining, which we are doing right now, and isolating both suspected and confirmed cases. But I also need to mention, which we all know, that dead bodies are also highly infectious.
Let's just back up a bit.
Yeah.
You mentioned suspected and confirmed cases. That's where I'm going. We keep talking about primary contact.
Yes.
But the primary contacts are picked up after they start showing symptoms.
Exactly.
So they've been with people before they started to actually show those symptoms. There might be a time frame in which there was contact when they were showing symptoms with people they are leaving behind at home.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, what can we do about this?
Now, the WHO has categorized 3 cases. We have probable cases, suspected cases, and confirmed cases. A probable case is a person under investigation who is showing the classical signs, the sore throat, the headache, the fever, the muscle aches. Now, a suspected case is someone who has shown these signs and symptoms and who has been in contact with a case. And there are different levels of contact. There's casual contact, where you may not really be in contact with the person. A casual contact is defined as when you have more than 3 meters, space between you and the person that actually.
Even that is contact.
Yes, that's casual contact, up to 3 meters. Above 3 meters is not casual contact. You are relatively safe. Then high-risk contact. People caregivers who are in close proximity with some people who come in contact with their secretions, their bodily fluids, primarily healthcare workers, and also the family of the people that come down with this. So
shouldn't they all be quarantined?
That is a tough one, but ideally you should, of course, you have to quarantine confirmed cases and suspected cases, and also a subset of probable
and probably
cases.
Have different levels of quarantine.
Yeah, there are different levels of quarantine. We need to step up our isolation protocols and quarantine procedures here so as we can nip this thing in the bud as soon as possible.
Okay, hand washing seems to be the most popular prevention technique now. It's like this hand washing is not going to go. But I came across somebody who said proper hand washing. Now, what is proper hand washing? Is it that we're not washing our hands well, or we don't know how to wash our hands? Can you give us a demonstration?
The average Nigerian doesn't know how to wash his or her hands properly. Some people just do this and think they've washed their hand. But that is not hand washing. And hand washing, of course, after you've applied, you've dispensed some of the liquid gel. We prefer.
Why do you do that? What's this?
But the container that you're going to use to dispense this liquid. In fact, we prefer liquid to tablet soap, because we've been able to isolate or even culture other germs from tablet soaps also. It's not as if they will not grow in the liquid soap, don't get me wrong, but you want to, dispense some into your
okay,
palm.
when you do that, you're pushing the tap.
The plunger down.
Okay.
And of course, you make a film of the lather on your hands. And you first of all, this is what we call the palmar surface. You wash the palmar surface. You've applied a little bit of water. And another problem we have is we don't have too many elbow-operated taps. You can see with all, I'm using my elbows to demonstrate a lot. We need to have a lot of more elbow-operated taps. You form a ladder. And then this is what these spaces, we call them in medical parlance, interdigital clefts. You want to, also go into this place so that these opposing aspects of your fingers will also be washed. When you've done that, okay, you can next also do this surface of your hand. You also want to wash it. So you see, we started with 1, 2, 3. When you've done this, it doesn't stop there. You also want to wash this aspect.
Around the thumb?
Yes, between the thumb and this finger. You also want to do that, and you also want to wash your knuckles very well. Now, that doesn't stop here. You see the space in between your nails are also part of...
You have to show towards the camera. This is what you're doing.
Exactly, And then you can now, with the elbow-operated tap, wash your hands. And
okay, now the water is running.
Yes, wash off the liquid soap, the lather, close it, and using a paper towel. Not cloth towel. Because the cloth towels can act like a wick, and organisms will proliferate. And then that defeats the whole process of your hand washing. So use a paper towel and then
dispose of it
into the dustbin.
So that's where these foot-operated trash cans are very good.
There's also some taps that are also foot-operated, but let's not go too esoteric. The elbow-operated ones will suffice.
Okay. Now, let's go to some, should we say, controversial aspects of this thing.
Yes.
It's been established, lots of health professionals have told us that bitter kola is not a cure. But according to the papers that were released, it was said, in those papers that bitter kola was able to stop the replication of the virus in test tubes. Doesn't that count for anything? Does it mean anything, or should we totally discard this study?
As of now, it counts for nothing, and I'll explain why. When we are developing a drug or we're testing a drug, you could have two means of testing. Outside the human body and inside the human body. When it's outside, we say it's in vitro. It's like you have in vitro fertilization, in vitro test tube baby. So outside, in vitro, and then inside the body, in vivo. Now, when you are designing a drug or testing a drug, you use mouse models, rat models, mice models, or even inside test tubes.
This hasn't even gotten up to the stage of rats and mice.
To the best of my knowledge, it's still at the test tube. There might have been some, assaying within rats and mice. I don't have the specifics, but it has, because who is going to subject himself to say, okay, inject me with Ebola and then give me the bitter kola? Or let me take bitter kola first, then inject me with Ebola and see if I will survive. It's very difficult to. So at this stage, bitter kola is still a no-no. The public need to be, get this clear. It has no effect as of today, the 9th of August, on the management of Ebola virus disease. We do not use bitter kola in any way or in any form.
But can research still be done along those lines?
Oh yeah, research is always an ongoing process. In medicine we say never. Speaking
of research, ZMapp.
Yes.
ZMapp is also an experimental drug, and it's been used on 2 Americans, and they have been said to be showing signs of improvement.
Yes.
Now, people do not understand why we can't use ZMapp.
We can't access the drug.
Is there a reason why we shouldn't be using ZMapp?
I can understand the frustration of Nigerians, but being within the confines of the profession, I can say that you can't just use drugs like that. You see, drugs have 4 phases of testing. You see, the first phase, you test on lab mice, lab rats. The second stage, you test within a small population of human beings. And then the third phase, you test on a larger subset of human beings. And in the fourth stage, people can use it, but you're also looking out for adverse drug reactions. ZMapp has not undergone, and there are also legal issues that are involved. We don't know the full extent of this drug. We don't know whether the cure is worse than the cause or worse than the condition.
Whether it will leave more problems behind than it met.
I can understand the viewpoint of the American government. We cannot say we want to use it like that. So they have a basis for declining our request.
Okay, so why would it be used? I mean, if this is the state of the research and this is the state of the drug, we are just not sure. Why would it be used on those two Americans? What's the issue? Is it, do they sign something?